What is up, children? It is Andy with another series preview here. And today we will be talking about the Florida Panthers, the road team in this series, taking on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Although you would not know that they are the road team, judging by the price of this series. And there are many people who think the price of this series is quite adequate for a multitude of reasons. And I've listed some of these reasons right over here on the infamous Sweet Chin board. There is a story about how this board came to be, but if I had to tell that whole story and then we have to do this whole video, I don't know if there's just enough time for all of that nonsense. So I will get right to the business here. This round 2 series, Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Leafs, it's a big question mark still. They got over the semi-first round hump against a first-time playoff team. It seems like the questions really haven't been answered after one round, but we're certainly going to get some answers here because they're facing the defending Stanley Cup champions, the cream of the crop of the NHL, the team who I said in my series preview video against the Tampa Bay Lightning. The Panthers, when they're at their best, are the best team in the playoffs. It's not even a question. When all of these teams in the entire playoffs are playing at their best, there is no better team than the Florida Panthers. Unfortunately, we saw a Florida Panthers team essentially playing at their best, and they eliminated a red-hot Tampa Bay Lightning team who had home ice. So that team had home ice and lost a grand total of every single one of their games played on home ice. So I don't know if I have to go to the bottom here. As you could see at the very bottom, I wrote home ice means a grand total of nothing. There is not a building that the Florida Panthers can't go in and win every single game. Whether that was Madison Square Garden last year where they won 2 out of 3 games against the New York Rangers, or whether it was up in Edmonton winning that game 3, although Edmonton did lay a couple of smackings on them up there. This is a team, the way they play, it travels. Like, you know how in the NFL defense travels? Well, whatever the hell the Panthers does, which is a lot of defense and a lot of hitting, forechecking, pressure on you at all times, that travels as well, and that was very evident in the last series. This is a team that has Stanley Cup confidence, so you're never going to see them waver. Like when they give up 2 goals in 11 seconds to the Tampa Bay Lightning. They come back later in the game, score 2 goals in 11 seconds. When things seem to go right for a team in one of those runs, and we saw this with the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is why they were able to come back from an 0-2 hole against the New York Rangers. When things are going right, that belief just kind of resonates, and the bounces always seem to go their way. You can look at that Seth Jones goal in the last round. They're just in the midst of one of those runs. And it's going to be a tall order for this Toronto Maple Leafs team to beat the defending Stanley Cup champions, who are massive favorites in this series. You know, they're going to be hopeful in Toronto because they won a series. They won a series in 6. Almost like in 2023 when they won the first round series in 6 and then just got outworked, out-hustled, and waxed by the 8-seed Florida Panthers, the majority of which are still on this team, in a grand total of 5 games. So what can possibly be different about this series? I don't know, but we can look at some of the deciding factors. The first being the Leafs power play. It won them round 1. It did. An elite power play, playing to the top of its abilities. I mean, all those power play goals early in the series got them that series lead. They were scoring left and right. It was one of those situations. If Ottawa took a penalty, that was going to cost them. And even in the deciding game, you look how the Maple Leafs got their first lead of the game. Austin Matthews, power play goal, and that set them on to win that game. But as we know, as the playoffs goes further down the line, the refs tend to swallow their whistle more. And that elite power play, to me, means very little against a penalty kill, who for multiple straight seasons, they are the power play ruiner. If you have an elite power play, nobody can ruin that elite power play like the Florida Panthers. Like the New York Rangers, their perennial top 4 power play, the one that wins them series after series. They waxed Washington with a bunch of power play goals. They beat Carolina with a bunch of power play goals. Then they got to play the Panthers, 1 power play goal the entire series. I've never seen a team who can just shut down elite power play after elite power play. Beginning of the Edmonton series, they got to a 3-0 lead in that series. By the way, nobody has stopped the Oilers. You just can't stop the Oilers' power play. It's simply too good, as you saw in that last series against the Kings, and as you've seen at any point in this last 5-year stretch. But the first half of that series, especially, Florida was able to shut down that Edmonton power play. They got to a 3-0 lead in the series, and that was enough to win them the Stanley Cup. They can ruin any power play. And when you're talking about a 5-forward power play for the Toronto Maple Leafs, do not be surprised if the Rat and Lundell and Luosterainen, they get a bunch of chances going the other way, as we saw with Ottawa. If you put pressure on this 5-forward power play and they stay out there a little too long, don't be surprised if you see a shorthanded goal or two in this series. So for the Leafs, if that power play does go dry for whatever reason, maybe A, the Panthers do what they typically do to good power plays, or B, the series gets a little bit later, game 5, game 6, game 7, and there just aren't that many opportunities to go around, how are you going to find your offense? And the answer would naturally be this core four. The core four, they're going to have to come through. And the question is, can they come through 5-on-5 against a team like the Florida Panthers, who will just shut down any quality players? Literally, they are known for being a vicious team who shut down the best of them. Look at last round. Nikita Kucherov, the leading point scorer in the NHL back-to-back years. How did he do in that last series? How did Braden Point do in that last series? This is a specialty of theirs. They play vicious defense, they get on your stars, and they have a bunch of rats on that. It's a beautiful blend of skill and rats. You have 3 of the most quiet, kind gentlemen in Barkov, Luosterainen, and Lundell, and then on that same ice, on that same bench, you have 3 of the biggest rat bastards this league has ever seen in Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, and the Rat himself. And you kind of saw what they engaged in against those Tampa Bay Lightning. A little cheap shot here, a little late shot there. And that's just what they do. They're like the NHL's version of the Legion of Boom, who goes, hey, we're going to continue to do that, and there are only so many penalties the league can call. We do have Aaron Ekblad suspended for Game 1 of this series, so while I think Game 1 is the best chance for the Leafs to have a good game, no Ekblad out there, and the most likely the refs will just call a bunch of penalties to keep everything in line, I do think Game 1 would be the best chance for the Leafs. With that said, how was the Florida Panthers record without Aaron Ekblad in that previous round? 3-0? Oh, nice. So there are so few holes in this Panthers roster. Straight up, it's going to be not just a tall order, it's going to be a massive order for this team that has choked many times throughout the years. And as I watched that last series, I looked to see, okay, well, this is a team, this is the new Toronto Maple Leafs. Let me see how they play on a shift-to-shift basis. And here's what I saw. They do have defensemen like Tanev who are way better on the back end and can kind of help, shed that image of not being tough and not being able to hold leads. But I do have news for you. They blew 2-goal leads in that series. That is beyond unacceptable. If you want to win in the playoffs, blowing leads is out of the question multiple times in a series. That is what you see of a losing type of team. Okay, maybe, you kind of forget about it when it gets to overtime, which is what happened in some of those games. But there were red flags to go around in that series, which was A, the blown leads, B, some of that core four. Matthews, Marner, Nylander. You didn't see that dog, the necessary playoff dog, the one that I keep referencing. And here's how I know you can see it. Matthew Knies has it. This is no random Leafs hatred. If the team was full of, if there were more, 3-4 more Matthew Knieses out there, skill with the tenacity, beating out icings, playing incredibly physical in front of the net, that's creating a lot of space for these other core 4 forwards who are just perimeter players trying to make the perfect plays. Whether you saw that soft Austin Matthews pass, which got turned into a shorthanded goal, and then William Nylander not hustling back, this is unacceptable hockey. There cannot be one highlight like that of your playoff package. There just can't. They're just kidding. Oh, what the Andy? That's right. No, it's not ridiculous. You want to know the difference between a Stanley Cup winning team and a fringe team? It's that. How is that acceptable on their team? How is that not addressed at any point? That back skate by Nylander, it just cannot exist. You find me a Florida Panthers clip that looks like that, and then I'll just stop making videos permanently because their style of play is entrenched from top to bottom. They have tons of skill on that team. Tons of skill. If they want, they can try to just play a pretty passing, let's try to get some 50-goal scores. But they play more of a team game, and they are fully rewarded for that as they were in the last game, or as they were in the last round. And as you see with them, my favorite part of any NHL team, as I tell you every single year, every round, there has to be some new heroes. You can't ask the core four to deliver all 4 rounds. It just doesn't happen. Nathan MacKinnon during their Stanley Cup run, he could not deliver every single round. That's just the nature of the playoffs. That's how difficult it becomes to score. You need to spread it around. Last year, with the Florida Panthers, you mostly had 2 lines who were kind of shifting a lot of their production. You had that top line, it's the same exact top 6, by the way, of last year. You have Barkov, Reinhart, Verhaeghe on the top line, and then the second line is Bennett, Tkachuk, and Evan Rodriguez. Those were the same exact top 6 last year, if you look at the Stanley Cup Finals, and then they would just sporadically flop Rodriguez and Verhaeghe. And then last year, their third line that came through a little bit against the Rangers was Lundell, Luosterainen, and Vladimir Tarasenko. Well, you took Tarasenko out of there, and now that's Brad Marchand, and he is creating havoc. And that line was their best line in this previous round. Their third line was their best line. So we haven't seen the top line erupt. That second line played pretty damn well. Sam Bennett, Tkachuk played well, and he's only going to get healthier. So this is just a brutal situation for any team. When I look at teams who can potentially match up against a team like the Florida Panthers, you got to have 3 lines as well. You have to have a bunch of guys who can play physically. You have to have a good goalie. Really, a team like Dallas, an eliminated team like the Kings, a team like the Golden Knights who can just go line for line, kind of play some cheeks hockey. And I do not see that from this Toronto Maple Leafs team. I still see a skilled team who has added some tougher pieces. It's great that they have Knies in there. Tavares plays a decent playoff style of hockey. And then obviously their coach and then their defense, and they're getting pretty good goaltending. But from what I saw against the Ottawa Senators, I saw a Maple Leafs team look a little bit better than last year, still relying for power play goals, skill-based goals. And now they just have a little added element of like Matthew Knies, who has brought a little something that the others don't. But I still think the problem remains with their big stars. It's way too much finesse. And as they said in the movie Road Trip, not enough cock and balls. Sorry. I try to be okay with the language here once in a while. I don't think the Toronto Maple Leafs have enough cock and balls to win this series, which is why I'm going to take the Florida Panthers, which is just no shock. I said that this is the best team when they are playing at full strength. There is not a better team in the NHL. The style of play equals playoff hockey. And you just saw that in the previous round. Pretty much the most red-hot team in the NHL was the Tampa Bay Lightning. They dispersed of them in 5 games like it was no big deal. Scoring goals on a great goalie. This is a team coming in with full confidence. We know how the Rat plays against Toronto. To say this is going to be a tall order for Toronto really is just the understatement of the century. I'm going to go with the Florida Panthers. I just don't see this going 7 games. So give me the Florida Panthers minus 1.5 games. And this is where the Toronto Maple Leafs, they can shove it up the whole country's proverbial ass. Like if you want to say us versus the world, it's so funny how that works. Like the Panthers, they say they're being treated like the disrespected underdog because they finished in 3rd place, but they're favored in this series. It's Toronto who nobody, like, yeah, sure, YouTube commenters from Ontario have to put like, no, what do you mean? Look how we played against them game 10 in the season. But I know when they go to sleep at night and they're looking at the ceiling, they're like, oh, shit, it's 1 series win and we're out. But let me get the excuses ready. Start readying the excuses. But honestly, it will feel good for you Toronto folk. You got Knies. I really do like that. Let Marner walk. let him walk and start shifting the culture like the Panthers did. Let 100-point Huberdeau get the hell out of there. Bring in some more guys who fit a playoff winning style. And yes, you will have finesse, Nylander, and Matthews, but you can have a certain amount of finesse. The Panthers have Verhaeghe. The Panthers have Barkov. That's fine, but surround them with playoff-style players. So I'm going with the Florida Panthers. That's what I have for you here in this series preview, unless I really... No, I just kind of hit all these things. Yeah, the last thing I will say, the 2023 series, I see this playing out a lot like that. 3-2 games, which always kind of fall the way of the Florida Panthers. That is what I have for you here in this series breakdown. For more series breakdowns, you know what you got to do. Oh, I'm checking the amount of likes. I'm checking the amount of comments. So engage with these videos, like, comment, click the notifications so you know when the video comes out so you can watch it as early as possible. And obviously, if you guys want to be a minority owner, you want to be the lone sponsor, there's no yoo-hoo around here. The only yoo-hoos are you guys, the members of the Patreon. So if you want to join, it's patreon.com/Andy Francess. That's also where Josh puts his baseball picks, so you will have MLB sniffs there. That's where I will include any last-minute NHL playoff sniffs. That's where I'll put anything up before I even make the video. So I hope to see you over there. If not, no worries. I will see you for the next NHL video, whether it's a playoff preview or a Game 7 or a Game 1. The only way you will know is by clicking those notifications. I'll talk to you then.